Good evening. We're going to give just a few moments to let everybody get into the webinar. Get started in just a moment. Okay, good evening and welcome. Thank you for making the time tonight to join me for our annual State of the School Address. As I round out my third year at Charles Wright Academy and share with you the third of these addresses, I find myself feeling more grateful and elated than ever before to be here sharing highlights and updates from the good work that this community is doing. I have also said several times this year that in so many ways, this year feels like my first year at Charles Wright. I've had many firsts this year that by all accounts I missed in 2020 due to COVID. As we come out from the fog of the pandemic that still lingers from time to time, I have to remind myself of the incredible journey that we have been on these last 2.5 years. When I interviewed at Charles Wright Academy and spoke with administration and trustees about the work to be done, the strategic plan they had in place, the challenges to overcome, and the priorities of the board and the administration at that time, the planning of ideas and the best approach to that work began to materialize in my own mind, but also through the relationships that I was beginning to form and build through campus visits, phone calls, and Zoom meetings with faculty, staff, and trustees. Much of it centered around changes in the new guiding documents that the school had recently adopted. If you were here prior to the pandemic at Charles Wright, you might recall that the school had recently changed its mission statement, adopted a set of institutional values for the first time, created our portrait of a terrier, and written an inclusion statement to drive and direct the work around issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. As an independent school, our mission means everything. It's our why. It's what we aspire to be, to embody, to live, and to deliver to students and families. As a new leader coming into a school that had just adopted a new mission, ensuring that we were aligning our culture, our program, and the work that we do each day to that new mission, that new guiding light, our new North Star, was going to be a big lift. Not to mention, we had for the first time in the school's history articulated our institutional values to accompany this mission: perseverance, respect, integrity, compassion, and excellence. As if that was not enough, the school had worked with a committee of stakeholders in the community to create an inclusion statement to articulate the philosophy for how we value the work we were doing and the work to be done in fostering a diverse community of true belonging. They had facilitated a process to identify a desired 21st century student outcome and experience that we wanted for students in our portrait of a learner, or what we call our portrait of a terrier. They'd created a new strategic plan, our Strategic Vision 2030, for implementation. All new documents to guide, shape, and change the trajectory of this school community. That was a lot for a new leader to inherit, yet I was up for the challenge. I was excited by it. I still am, drawn to it, inspired by it. What an exciting time to join this long-standing community of excellence, a community that was ready, is ready to leap into its next chapter. Of course, much of that work that I was planning was set aside to deal with what happened in the spring of 2020. As I closed the doors on my former school campus and sent everyone home to teach and learn online, Charles Wright Academy was doing the same. So when I finally arrived to begin my tenure here in June of 2020, I immediately established a task force for reopening. Every member of the faculty and staff were invited to join me for those summer meetings. Not all felt moved by that call to action, but many did. we spent time each week with that task force and in smaller design teams to build our reopening plans for that fall. A shared leadership model for that work leveraged administrators who could oversee the needs and ability for us to open safely for in-person learning, and to also offer a remote option for our families who were not ready to return in person. Many faculty and staff who usually do not work in the summers volunteered their time to give their input, their ideas, their voices, their feedback and thoughts. We read pages and pages of school plans from around the world, articles and papers on infectious diseases. We met with other school leaders, doctors of all sorts, the health department, and so much more. We worked collaboratively that summer to solve a significant and complex problem on behalf of our community. As a result of that vision, of our hard work, and most importantly, our collaboration, we moved this community forward in ways that many thought impossible, and few other schools accomplished in the ways that we did so successfully. Not only am I incredibly proud of that work and the outcomes we were able to deliver to students and families that fall, it was a powerful moment for me to recognize what was possible when this community truly worked together towards a common goal and a common purpose to best serve our students and families. However, while pandemic planning and management consumed much of our bandwidth in my first 2 years here, we still had these issues of the new guiding documents to implement, to build culture around, to build capacity for implementation, to understand, and to better align our programs and practices too. Those priorities and plans had not been vaporized by the pandemic, but in some ways had become even more important. Arundhati Roy, an Indian author and activist, wrote an essay for one of her most recent books called "The Pandemic is a Portal." She talks about the opportunities that the pandemic has brought to the world throughout time, pandemics throughout time. While much of her writing is aimed at the political and structural class issues of India, this philosophy has been quoted and conscripted as a change management mantra for a variety of organizations who faced the challenges of the pandemic and wanted to lean into the opportunities hiding behind it. Many of which were school-specific change leadership organizations, such as Rethinking Schools, if you're familiar, and the Big Questions Institute. Roy writes, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice, our hatred, our avarice, our databanks and our dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through it lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. The Big Questions Institute expands on Roy's idea for schools, pointing specifically to us as school leaders to use this framing to fuel change and growth, asking us, what carcasses do we want to leave behind? What sacred aspects and traditions of who we were before the pandemic will we preserve to take along and fight for and make space for intentionally? What new stories of the future can we create about this vision we see and wish for our children and our community in the future? Indeed. As we have left the need for the day-to-day management of COVID, we have not lost sight of moving forward with larger issues of alignment in our guiding documents. In fact, much of the work that we brought to the community in the last year was focused on the revising of the Strategic Vision 2030, and the board approved of those revisions in May of 2022. Many of you on this call tonight participated in the feedback that we gathered to help shape that revision. Our senior leadership and management team has been working diligently this year on mapping out our progress to date and creating an operational plan for those initiatives. Each has the work outlined in the strategic initiative under the 5 pillars of this Strategic Vision 2030. Tonight, I hope to share some highlights of that progress to date and to lay the groundwork for some exciting initiatives and plan that you'll see coming to fruition in the coming year and just beyond. A challenge with a strategic plan that covers more than a decade from its inception to its completion in 2030 is knowing that the school we hope to build needs to be the best school for 2030, not necessarily the best school we can think of for 2023 that just happens to materialize in 2030. Also, I love the adage that the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So planning smaller steps along the way, seeking feedback from the community, and ensuring that we're meeting the mark year to year to make adjustments is also critical. If you'd like to follow along with these next few talking points that align with the revised Strategic Vision 2030, Laura Rose, who's also on the call, will drop the link in the chat for you. And you can view each of the 5 pillars: place, partnerships, people, program, and plan. Some great alliteration there. And under each is a list of initiatives located there for your viewing at any time on our website at charleswright.org under Strategic Vision 2030. I'm going to start with place. I'm not going to read it to you. You can go and look. If you're watching this recording later, you can also hop on the website and follow along. But you can see there that under place, the pillar says to finalize and execute a facilities master plan that considers the investment in space necessary to implement the strategic vision for 2030. Under Initiative 1, I'll share some highlights. As of this fall, we've expanded our Early Childhood Center, returning it to a Charles Wright tradition of naming it our beginning school, or renaming it our beginning school. And we have filled it with a highly qualified staff, and it is now filled to capacity with 78 active and joyful children from around the South Sound. We've also established an atelier, the only one of its kind in the South Sound, a special studio space where beginning school children can also have enrichment classes from a licensed early childhood educator in arts, music, engineering, sciences, and more. So far this year to date, we have received now 85 applications for a limited number of spaces in the beginning school for next fall, more applications than the total number of students currently enrolled at capacity. Next fall, we will be moving our admissions office to another location on campus in the upper school building so that we can use that existing space for more classrooms in our expanding lower school to meet the needs and the desired enrollment. And an outcome of growth this year in the beginning school and last year in the beginning school is that we are likely going to have a boom of enrollment in the lower school that moves up. We're looking at 4 sections of kindergarten in the fall, and we're very excited. Underneath place, to develop and implement strategies to more fully accommodate and utilize the campus year-round infrastructure and facilities. We hosted the Rainier Scholars Tacoma first ever summer stretch program for students in Pierce County. As a result, some of those scholars felt so at home at Charles Wright this summer, they've applied for admission this year, and more will be joining us next fall. We've created new and expanded existing partnerships with several local organizations who use our facilities when they have need and we do not. This strengthens our support of those relationships in the community. A few organizations that we want to name are the Tacoma Youth Chorus, who we have a long-standing relationship with, the Tacoma Symphony, the Gig Harbor Soccer Club, the Tacoma Rifle and Revolver Club, the Boys and Girls Club of South Puget Sound, and more. As we explore and implement new opportunities to increase enrollment through ancillary business models and possible strategic alignment with other schools, our summer camp program is growing and growing. Last summer, we offered a summer camp for both our own CWA families and for the first time ever, turned it outward public facing to the broader community. This summer, we've doubled our offerings for students and have planned to expand the grades offered from last year K through 6 to include K through 8. We've accomplished this through a variety of community vendors and partners and through the creation of classes and camps using our own talented faculty and staff. Not only is this a great alternative revenue stream for the school and a way to leverage our ample campus and facilities, but a great opportunity to get students on our campus and to increase our own enrollment. It's already starting to pay off, and as it grows, we know it'll continue. As we explore and implement strategies to increase the environmental sustainability of the campus, this initiative is being considered for all current and future actions in upcoming construction projects around athletics, which you'll hear about in a minute, and those to accommodate growth in the lower and the middle school, as well as significant plans for a modernization effort of the upper school building as part of our to-be-adopted campus master plan that the Board of Trustees is working on. Preliminary plans for the upper school in that modernization include creating ADA accessibility, updating surface materials for a more modern and clean look, a new visual arts classroom, a reimagining of the current atrium space, hot food service in the upper school commons, and an overhaul of our existing HVAC and other energy use in compliance with the Clean Building Act per Washington state legislation. We hope to unveil designs for the new upper school building modernization project and related projects at this time next year. As we design, fund, and implement improvements and expansion to athletic facilities and infrastructure to meet our evolving needs in those program areas. In the fall of 2022, thanks to the generosity of many donors, we finished the installation of our gorgeous new track and related field facilities, including an incredible state-of-the-art shot put area. We also finished some branding efforts in the white gym, installed a brand new AV system there that now includes projection abilities, and refinished and rebranded our beautiful wood basketball court. You've likely seen the variety of new branding in and around our athletics facilities, which has also been featured on social media if you're not on campus recently. It should be completed this spring when the weather turns nicer. We're missing a few exterior branding pieces around the dome. And our students have been able to experience the updates made to the dome locker rooms with branding, new surface materials in their school colors, and some beautiful skylights to allow for a more natural and open look all year in those spaces. The Board of Trustees, as I alluded to before, will be considering and ideally approving a new campus master plan that's being put together by a board committee, our Facilities Master Plan Committee. And that will include some additional updates to the athletic facilities and plans. This will include additional tennis courts, a covering, an outdoor covering for those tennis courts that will render that space usable for more athletes year-round, and new striping that will allow us to use that space for Washington State's new official sport, pickleball, in addition to tennis. In addition to the athletics facilities planning, this new master plan that we hope to have approved in May of 2023 by the Board of Trustees will also clarify new spaces for visual arts, a multi-use building dedicated to admissions, and more. Changes to our traffic patterns, and finally, paving the parking lot and driving areas around the maintenance, transportation, and athletic areas. I know I can't hear you from home, but I'm sure some of you are cheering. There's more to come on our new master plan to be unveiled with renderings next fall. As we move to the partnerships pillar and we look through the different initiatives underneath that pillar, the work that we've done on partnerships as we started this section to determine how to best operationalize the strategy, we noticed that we made a significant list of existing partnerships. Some were new partnerships in the last few years that arose out of either new initiatives or relationships, while others were long-time partnerships that we needed to revitalize and create a more proactive approach to nurturing and sustaining for the future. Some examples are PBL Works, formerly known as the Buck Institute for Education, and Global Online Academy, both of which have provided us with professional development to meet programmatic needs, and also as we made the shift to remote learning during the pandemic. Global Works Travel. Global Works recently facilitated a new signature middle school travel program. We took our 8th graders to Puerto Rico. They've just returned. They had a lot of fun. One of the wonderful things about Global Works is that it utilizes a beautiful combination of service learning components, global travel, and some tourism and fun for students. The Rainier Scholars, which I spoke about in Tacoma. This is an expansion of an existing Seattle program that serves students in the South Sound now. And some of our athletic partnerships with the Gig Harbor Soccer Club and Chris Hippa Basketball. We're also looking for ways to revitalize our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of South Puget Sound, who's going to be hosting some meetings on our campus in the coming year, and who help us to identify and nominate Yazzie Scholars for admission. Also, the Hands-On Children's Museum in Olympia and the Emergency Food Network. Those are just a handful of some of the wonderful partnerships that we're already starting to develop, that we've long time developed and we're starting to revitalize. The need to map out these existing partnerships first allows us to then recognize the state of those relationships, who our contacts at those organizations are, what the history and current need of the partnership might be for our school and the work ahead. This work in mapping has the potential to strengthen not only our fundraising and development work, but the opportunities for learning and service for our students, for field trips, for travel, for building perspective in our students about other cultures, creating internships, entrepreneurial curriculum, and so much more. It also allows us to assess what the needs are in our community that we can support. How can Charles Wright Academy add value to our community by supporting the initiatives and work of those other organizations and people around us? Now we're on to the people pillar. Foster an engaged and inclusive community by cultivating CWA's exceptional and committed faculty and staff for the future. I'm going to combine this with the next pillar, which is program, to expand the understanding of what active joyful learning should be in the mid-21st century by developing and supporting an experiential, integrated, and interdisciplinary curriculum and program to enhance the student experience in alignment with and in service of the Terrier traits and the inclusion statement. These two pillars both contain initiatives and projects that our academic leadership team are currently working on and will have some progress to report to you very soon. Our academic leadership team differs from our senior leadership and our management team in that they are focused primarily on the strategic work of academic program, professional development, and curriculum. Joe Romano, our Director of Innovation, chairs the academic leadership team, or as you might hear it referred to, ALT. This is a cross-functional group of academic leaders on campus representing all divisions and developmental ages. They focus on the strategic and programmatic work from individual vantage points, such as faculty members, division directors, Director of Educational Technology, of DEIB, student life, counseling and wellness, and more. They calibrate the overarching all-school strategies and initiatives to best determine what implementation and success look like at each developmental stage of our academic program and curriculum. This year, the significant work of that team has been both in the program and the people pillar. It's been around refining our faculty evaluation growth and development model and the process implications for professional development and learning that arise from that work. Project-based learning implementation and practice with a focus this year building more on student voice and choice in the classroom so students can take a more active role in their own learning, taking responsibility and following their passions. Additionally, a K-8 math curriculum review team and service learning team have all come from ALT to work on those specific curriculum maps this year and to design unique experiences, signature programs, and to choose resources for that work. This group of wonderful people have been instrumental in facilitating conversations with faculty at all levels on several initiatives taking place this year or planned for next year, including the return to semesters in the upper school and subsequently the middle and the lower school, and building out advisory programming in grades 5 through 12. The return of Winterim, or as we call it now, Mayterm. We are so excited to return to international travel, to be sending students on 5 different international trips, as well as really wonderful domestic trips and local trips. And a new program, we've never sent students to South Korea for the first time. In Mayterm, students will be traveling to Turkey, France, but South Korea is a new offering. We have new signature travel experiences and service opportunities in the middle school, including the Puerto Rico trip through GlobalWorks I just spoke about. And they've been aligning our curriculum mapping to appropriate standardized assessments, namely the ERB tests that we take in lower school and middle school, and suggesting alternatives for the timing of those assessments and the usage of the data that are best suited for supporting student outcomes and driving changes in curriculum and programming in the lower and the middle school. I could go on and on about the impactful work and the leadership and the passion that members of the academic leadership team are undertaking. But tonight is really just a snapshot of the work that we've done and plans for the immediate future. I will invite you instead to learn more about the people and the program pillars and hear directly from Joe Romano and the entire academic leadership team at our next town hall, which will be offered in the evening of April 3rd. So please mark your calendars for that, where that team will be presenting on those two pillars across all 4 areas of academia in our divisions. So please join us. Plan, our last pillar. Build financial sustainability for the school and the next generation of students. We recently completed a market analysis and research project through a consulting firm led by Dana Nelson Isaacs of D&I Consulting, and that surveyed the entire region that we serve in the South Sound. Phase 1 of that research was done last year and included feedback from departing families who left Charles Wright at the end of the year, and families who applied and toured Charles Wright, but who did not choose ultimately to enroll. From that survey data, we were able to identify some areas for improvement to the academic and extracurricular programs, to our communications, both internally and externally, and to the admissions process itself. It was very helpful. Phase 1 also included demographic and segmented psychographic data from all around the South Sound and more than 75 zip codes that we currently serve or have served in the past. Not only did it identify areas experiencing population growth in Pierce County and surrounding areas with families who have school-age children, but also identified key attitudes, wants and needs, consumer habits that might make choosing Charles Wright a good fit. It also gave us some information on how to communicate directly with those families, to highlight features of our program that will meet their needs, what they are seeking in an education for their child. We then used that data to partner with a new marketing firm for us, Total Digital Solutions, that has been able to use that information in our new digital marketing efforts. I'm so pleased to announce that as a result of that effort, we have had better exposure to and response rates from the larger South Sound community this year. Following the Scholarship Day event on campus this past weekend, wherein we received an unexpected number of attendees applying for 9th grade, we can now report that we've had an increase in inquiries and applications at every division over the last 5 years. So even pre-pandemic, we've not only returned to the number of applications and inquiries, we've exceeded that across the board. It's incredibly exciting. We also hired Peapod Design, a firm that works primarily with independent schools around the country, to design a new website for us, bringing us into the 21st century with a modern, fresh look that reflects our values, our mission, our portrait of a terrier, and the experiential work that we focus on. Taking into account the need for better levels of communication and clarity, a fresh look, we're so excited that this will be ready to launch in March of 2023, and will bring that more modern look to our web presence. It will also be significantly more functional and user-friendly for prospective families, also for athletics, for exterior, for outward-facing events, and more. The second phase of the marketing project included a recently concluded survey of current families enrolled at Charles Wright in 22-23. In addition to the overwhelmingly positive feedback and direct quotes regarding experiences at Charles Wright that we can use in our marketing efforts in our new website, there were many solid pieces of feedback that we can use to take action to improve. Parents were asked for their top 3 reasons why they chose Charles Wright Academy. The top answer by a large margin was our strong academic program and commitment to academic excellence, with nearly 80% of respondents selecting it. Other responses included excellent faculty, great reputation, the warmth of this community, location, college placement successes, commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, the facility, our arts offerings, student support services, student leadership opportunities, and athletics. Some of the areas of greatest concern from that survey: clarity of communications and the retention of faculty and students. We are already making adjustments to our communications from the feedback that we've received, and we really appreciate the thoughts. In regards to the retention of faculty, we know that this is a high priority for us, and we started some of that work by participating this winter in an international study of educators in schools led by Martin Blank from an organization called Wellbeing Solutions. This study is seeking to address and identify issues of faculty retention, burnout, and stress across the country and internationally by looking at the after effects of the pandemic and issues of individual response and resilience, self-regulation, and the overall mental health and wellness supports in place for adults within school cultures. This was a great opportunity for us to not only contribute our data to a larger project, but to gather feedback for our own use in assisting and supporting Charles Wright employees in feeling engaged, having appropriate and adequate support, but also learning more about just how are we doing at Charles Wright Academy in the ways that we work to support and retain faculty. While some of the faculty and data trends indicate larger issues that are shared in the educational landscape across schools, we've already started to build upon this feedback and address it within our own school culture to offer more benefits and to support our faculty and staff and to directly address some of the issues that surfaced in the survey. We formed a dedicated health and wellness committee that was open to anyone for just this purpose. Co-chaired by Jen Reisinger, our new Director of Counseling and Wellness, and Denise Williams, our Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, the feedback and suggestions are already rolling in. I look forward to inviting them to a future town hall to present you with their findings and some action steps in the near future. Committed faculty and staff are a vital part of our school community. While we need to recognize that there are challenges in schools across the country and trends, we are committed to ensuring that faculty who are a good fit for the community and the vision for the future of the school feel heard, supported, and valued. In closing, the future of Charles Wright Academy is very bright. Not only are we incredibly proud of the things we've accomplished, but we are equally proud of how things we've planned will come to fruition in the coming years. However, we know that this work is not and cannot be done without the continued partnership and collaboration of our community. We welcome your feedback and hope to share additional opportunities for you to engage in this process alongside us in the future. I want to take a moment to thank Joe Romano, our Director of Innovation, for his leadership and guidance in so much of the process and many of the outcomes I'm able to share tonight. Joe works across the country with many schools in his capacity as a consultant in the Leadership Plus design firm. And we've been so fortunate to have his thoughtful and brilliant input and facilitation of our strategic work here at Charles Wright. I'd also like to thank our senior leadership and management team, fondly referred to this year as SLAM team, SLMT. We made the decision to expand our administrative leadership circle to include a larger group of leaders who help to own and move this work forward beyond senior leadership in a variety of areas on campus. It also ensures that more voices are represented in discussions and decision-making. There are 23 of us now in SLAM team that meet weekly to tackle issues of strategy, implementation, policy, and more, and to interface with our faculty and staff to gather input and to give feedback. I'm so grateful for them, for their input, their leadership, their gifts, and their talents. I need to thank our incredible faculty and staff for their continued efforts, for their feedback, their sharing of gifts and talents, and their hard work with students each and every day. This is a tremendous time for schools across the country. Our faculty and staff at Charles Wright are second to none. They work hard, and I feel incredibly fortunate to work alongside them, and I am grateful for the work that they do with our students and families. I want to thank our Board of Trustees who continue to champion and support the Strategic Vision 2030 and to lead by example in every way. They continue to push Charles Wright Academy to new heights, to expand our vision, and to live our value of excellence. I want to thank our students and families who've been willing to attend coffees and to fill out surveys or to schedule meetings to share their feedback, to offer support, suggestions. Your willingness to give of yourself and your perspective in each of these ways are paramount to our success and into creating a future that we share. Lastly, I want to thank all of you community members, alumni, friends, former parents, and trustees who are tuning in tonight to hear about the wonderful things happening at Charles Wright Academy. As we say, once a terrier, always a terrier, and we welcome and value you. Thank you for being here. I will say it one last time, the future of Charles Wright Academy is bright. We are better together. And when we share a vision and common goal, like we did that summer of 2020, we can do anything we set our minds to. Thank you for all that you do to support the Terriers of today and the Terriers of tomorrow. Be safe and have a good night.